A humanist wedding ceremony focuses on the couple. I asked Scott and Amy to share their story and tell me about what makes them tick as a couple. This is what they told me. Their story goes back nearly 10 years or so to when they first met at Speyside High. Scott was 15 and Amy was just 14 at the time. He went up to her and he asked her, "Do you colour your hair every day?" Now, not surprisingly, Amy's first impression was that he was a cheeky so-and-so, but amazingly, she didn't knock him back. She clearly found that cheek quite attractive. So they got to know one another and they just seemed to click instantly. There were no awkward silences, no nervous mumbling. They just got on really well, and they knew really quickly that they had something very special. In the time since then, Scott and Amy have grown together and built solid foundations for their future. In 2013, they took the plunge and bought their first house together, and they worked hard to do it up before they moved in the following year. Lily also became a massive part of their lives, and they described her to me as being like their child. Their idea of a great night in is curling up on the sofa with Lily, watching TV and filling their faces. So at some point, Scott hatched a plan to propose. They were down in Edinburgh for the weekend, and after dinner at a lovely restaurant, they walked up to the castle. Unusually, they were the only ones there, so it was the perfect opportunity for Scott. He read a poem that he'd chosen specially. He got down on one knee and popped that all-important question. Amy was so shocked that she couldn't do anything for crying. But thankfully, she did eventually recover her composure, and she said yes. Scott has clearly learned a lot about romance since those early days at Speyside High. So that brings us to today, with the people who love Scott and Amy most, looking into the future with them. What does their future hold? Well, thankfully, none of us know where the path of life will take us. But Scott and Amy hope one day to get a bigger house and, in their words, to fill it with babies.
Time flies by so quickly, it doesn't seem that long ago Amy was born, and here I am today speaking or trying to toast her wedding. Amy is a wonderful daughter. She is a very caring person and has given us so much joy and happiness over the years, even despite her expensive taste in everything. She is a perfect young lady who I am proud to call my daughter, and I'm sure Scott will also be proud to call her his wife. During the years we have known Scott, we have come to realise how special he is to Amy, and how much of a kind, caring and genuine nice man he is. They are so happy and perfect match. If you could all raise a glass and a toast to a very long, happy and healthy future together for the bride and the groom.
So we know how Scott and Amy came to be here today, on the threshold of a new chapter in their lives. We know what makes them tick as a couple, and most importantly, what it is that they love about one another. That brings us to the part of our ceremony where Scott and Amy will make their promises of commitment to one another. Put it onto her finger. Take her hand, look at her, and repeat after me. I, Scott Clark,
I, Scott Clark,
accept you, Amy Lowe,
accept you, Amy Lowe,
in marriage to be my wife.
in marriage to be my wife.
Please accept this ring
Please accept this ring
as a symbol
as a symbol
of the promises
of the promises
that we have made today.
that we have made today.
Do you take Scott's ring? Put it on his finger.
It's holding me up.
I, Amy Lowe,
I, Amy Lowe,
accept you, Scott Clark,
accept you, Scott Clark,
in marriage
in marriage
to be my husband.
to be my husband.
Please accept this ring
Please accept this ring
as a symbol
as a symbol
of the promises
of the promises
that we have made today.
that we have made today.
Scott and Amy, you're here today because you're making a choice. You're both choosing each other. You've chosen to be with someone who enhances you, who makes you think, makes you smile, and who makes every day brighter. It now gives me the greatest of pleasure to declare that you are married, and I now pronounce that you are husband and wife. Please share a kiss.
On behalf of my wife and I, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming today. It wouldn't be the same without you all. Maybe a bit cheap, I like, but oh well. Just like to say, my only regret for today is that my dad isn't here. Unfortunately, Amy never got to meet him. He'd have absolutely loved her. He was a kind, loving, kind-hearted man, and I'm sure he'll be looking down on us all today. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'd like to just take a stand and a toast to my dad, please. Dean. Gone but not forgotten. Thank you. Cheers. I would just like to thank Amy's mum and dad, Mike and Barbara, for accepting me into their fantastically crazy family. Right from day one, you've always made me feel welcome. And thank you also for raising such a beautiful, semi-ish intelligent, and on most days, stubborn daughter. I'd like to thank my mum and Willie for raising such a charming, handsome, intelligent son. Seriously though, I'd like to thank you for your love and support over the years, and thank you both for giving us such a good start in life. We wouldn't have had what we had at such a young age, so thank yous.
For those of you who are wondering why there are two best men, it's perfectly simple. Scott wanted to appoint a best man for the occasion. But certainly couldn't find one, so you appointed two barely competent ones instead. Must confess that when Scott asked us to be his best men, we were terrified about doing a speech. Even more so when we found out there'd be 80 odd folk attending. So first of all, what Nathan said, you'd like to thank Smirnoff Vodka for giving us the courage to stand up and give a speech. Secondly, we'd like to welcome you all to this wedding. Having all of Scott and Amy's friends and family here is a wonderful way to start their life together.
I'd like to welcome Amy and her family to our family. Mind you, it's an experience, as we're well known as the Waltons. I would like to say a few words about Scott. As we all know, his dad, Dean, was taken far too soon. But I'm sure he would be very proud of the man he's turned out to be, just as much as I am and his mom. The first time I met Scott, it was his bike I saw first. I was invited up to his mum's for my supper and was looking out the kitchen window, and his bike was launched into the hedge. Then Scott came walking down and she says, "Oh, that's Scott Haim." Well, not Joe Beer, like. So I came walking in. He sat down with his supper in front of him and stared at me for about 10 minutes. And I says, "Are you not going to eat that, man? Because if you're not, I will." So after that, we got on fine. We have had our ups and downs, but mostly a lot of laughs. And good times when the Waltons are together.
So the last part of the homework that I asked Amy and Scott to do for me was for them to tell me what it was that they love about one another. I asked them to send me their answers privately and separately, So this is the first time that either of them has heard this part of our ceremony. Scott wrote for me, "I love Amy's beautiful eyes, and I also love how gullible she is. It keeps me constantly entertained. I absolutely love her laugh too. It always puts a big smile on my face when I hear her laughing hysterically." So what did Amy write for me about Scott? "I love Scott more than he will ever know. He's so kind, and he never fails to make me smile and laugh, and I could not imagine my life without him."
I suppose I better say a few words about the lady to my left here, the star of the show, Amy, my wife. I've learnt from the running up to the wedding that whenever she's right and I'm wrong, admit it. Whenever she's wrong and I'm right, I should really keep quiet. I'm still kind of working on that aim, but in all seriousness, as I say, you don't marry someone you can live with, you marry someone you can't live without. And this was me and Amy. Sorry. Amy, you look absolutely amazing today, although I'm sure we all knew you would. So to my wife, my best friend, the love of my life, you know everything about me from the good to the bad and still love me the same. I'm extremely lucky man to be the one to marry you. And I know this is going to be the start of many more happy years together.
I'd like to join with all of you in wishing Scott and Amy long life, health and happiness in their future. And I'd like to leave them with a few words of advice by the poet Ogden Nash, which might ring true for anyone who's been lucky enough to have found love with someone and want to share their life. Ogden Nash wrote, "To keep your marriage brimming with love in the loving cup, whenever you're wrong, admit it, and whenever you're right, shut up." Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you all to please be upstanding if you're able? And to show your appreciation now for the bride and groom, Amy and Scott, who are now Mr. and Mrs. Clark.